Hello, this is KTan. I decided to do a program evaluation for my final project, and I did it over the Cider Scholars Programs of Evangelicals for Social Action, which is where I work. I titled it Reaching for the Land of Excellence because that's a quote from Quinn's book, Deep Change. The objective of the program evaluation is to equip ESA to manage a quality program that provides professional and research experience to scholars while increasing organizational capacity. Of course, the evaluation will let us know how well we're doing at accomplishing program goals and also reveal to us other needs that might need to be addressed. A little background on the organization is that Evangelicals for Social Action was founded in 1973 by Dr. Ronald Cider, and it was meant to strengthen evangelical concern for social justice at a time when the greater evangelical church was, it highly valued evangelism, but it was spurning social action. They had many years of being influential and doing some pretty amazing things in advocacy and in public policy. But in 2005, they merged with Palmer Theological Seminary at Eastern University, and so are technically under them and became the Cider Center, even though the public name of our organization is still Evangelicals for Social Action. And then the Cider Scholars Program began in 2008, we think. That's actually one of my findings in the evaluation, is that no one that I've spoken to, either financial aid or the seminary or our staff or Dr. Cider, are quite sure when the program began. Description of the Cider Scholars Program is that it was actually initiated as a marketing tactic for the seminary to attract more gifted students. They wanted to attract more people and more tuition, and so they started the Cider Scholarship. The scholarship covers half of the tuition for the full academic career of students, and it's open to all full-time seminary students in a master's degree program at the seminary. They do have to apply for this and get approved. They have to have a letter of reference, and those applications come directly to Evangelicals for Social Action. In return for the tuition assistance, they're required to provide 10 to 15 hours a week of support to ESA, and there are actually 20 slots available for this scholarship. Though there isn't a mission statement for the program, there are some kind of basic goals that are listed on the ESA website. The first is that scholars will provide 10 to 15 hours a week in support to ESA. The second is that scholars will gain valuable experience in research, writing, and networking in holistic ministry, public policy, and social transformation. The third, that scholars will gain a greater understanding of how to integrate scholarship, popular writing, and organizing for social action. And the fourth, that scholars would be mentored by ESA staff. The first and the fourth goal are pretty easily measurable, and it's easy for me to evaluate if they're occurring. The second and third were more difficult because not only are they very broad, but at the same time they're extremely specific, which might seem like a paradox, but they're just very specific and very broad, so it's a lot harder to evaluate. The previous leadership of the Cider Scholars Program has been the interim director of ESA, which is Sarah Withrow King, and she functions largely under the partnership model of leadership, which is Eisler's model. And under that model is a very collaborative mindset within the organization. Everyone's input is valued, and power is seen horizontally or shared. Sarah has done a great job of including scholars, inviting them to events, to staff meetings, and they're able to give input into the organization. She has allowed a lot of freedom and acts kind of more as a guide with the program instead of a taskmaster. There's a self-reporting mechanism where scholars need to report at the end of every month what they're working on and how many hours they've completed. But under that less structure, the program has not been functioning very well, and scholars have been unresponsive and uncommunicative, and so Sarah has admitted that she's worn out and that she doesn't really care anymore. She doesn't have the time or energy to constantly remind scholars to complete their work. And so when I presented the idea of doing a program evaluation, partly because of my experience of being a volunteer and intern coordinator before, she asked me if I would like to lead the program. And so actually the current leadership of the program is under myself. I'm the administrative associate. And I also function under Eisler's partnership model, but also kind of, a combination of servant leadership and whole systems thinking, and that I feel very strongly. I feel strongly that as the leader of the program, I'm serving the CIDR scholars and the organization in that role. And also I have this whole systems thinking and understanding that the issue is not just uncommunicative scholars, but there's a lot more going on in the system, the organization, and the structure, and so that's kind of how I'm approaching the program. In the data collection phase of the program evaluation, the stakeholders that were involved were current CIDR scholars, which there are 4, CIDR scholar alumni, and the responses I got, I only had 3 of those, ESA staff and ESA advisory board members. And the methods I used were just some background research about the program and about the environment. Also online surveys. We completed a SWOT analysis and then also some different stakeholder discussions. There were multiple important key findings that I analyzed, from the data that I collected. The first was that there's a lot of confusion over goals and expectations with the program, not just from the CIDR scholars, but also from staff and board members. Also that scholars are not meeting their hour requirements, which I kind of already knew, but the data affirmed that. Scholars are not being mentored by staff, so we're not meeting that goal of the program. The data revealed that the program does influence the scholars' research, writing, and networking abilities and skills, and also that the program influences the scholars' ability to integrate scholarship, popular writing, and organizing for social action. But the quality of those responses and the quality of that influence is kind of difficult to gauge, again, because those goals were so broad, and also because it's self-reported and there's no way to verify it or to test that. Another finding is that there has been a decline in CIDR scholars applications. So as I mentioned before, there are 20 slots, but we have not had 20 slots filled for in many years, at least over 5 years. And there were a couple of years that we received no applications at all. And after, we have 2 CIDR scholars graduating right now, and then 1 is actually dropping out of the program, so we'll be left with 1 more scholar. And so there are various things that we looked at, and in the SWOT analysis kind of found some reasons why that's happening, and that's included in the paper. There were mixed responses about scholars feeling like integral contributors to the organization, and also mixed responses from staff about scholars being integral to the organization. So those were 2 findings. And then also, sadly, there's low scholar and staff satisfaction with the program. In order to address the findings that came out of the program evaluation, my recommendations are to develop a mission statement, to advertise the program better and more consistently, to restructure the program, and that will include multiple different things like a new communication strategy, a new reporting mechanism, less slots available, and things like that. To create position descriptions for scholars, to update the scholar contract, including a rights and responsibilities section, just so that expectations are very clear. For there to be a new scholars training, there isn't one right now, and that I think is a big issue. And also to have a disciplinary action plan that has a lot of grace, but also holds scholars accountable. Lastly, a quick reflection on the project is that, through this process I learned a lot about myself and realized that whole systems thinking is kind of second nature to me. And my hope through implementing the recommendations, since I'll be allowed to do that at work, is that the program does reach the land of excellence.